So here's the next step. We did this sphere right over here, right? Just using basically like a direct painting method, which is we mixed our complementary colors to create value, so on and so forth. Here what we're going to do is now we're going to use a technique that was used in the Baroque era known as underpainting. And underpainting is basically taking in an earth tone and creating the basic values that are going to go throughout the entire composition. It's essentially like a monochromatic slash achromatic color scheme when you first start out, because you're only using one earth tone, so here it's like a burnt sienna, okay, that I created using yellow and violet. So my yellow was over here, I created that, because two complements mixed equally together is going to create a brown. So that's what I created there. So I used a very smooth technique, or well, not very smooth, but I used basically just water and paint to create a smoother transition from light to dark to create my different values. And then here what I did is I created the values using a scumbling technique. So I'm going to show you those really quickly, okay? Oops, got some paint there. All right, so being able to do this pretty much requires us to be able to use a brown, okay? Oops, sorry. So using my brown here, what I'm going to do is using quite a bit of water, okay? So similar to like when I was using watercolor, right? So it's a lot of water, and all I'm really doing is creating basic values with this one color. So that means, or this one earth tone. So that means that if I'm going to go darker in an area, I have to use more pigment, okay? Use a little bit more water. I have a spray bottle handy, so that way that makes my life a little bit easier whenever I need to create a little bit more value. All right, and you want to make sure that when you're adding your values, you're looking at your resource image, so that way you know where these values go. So I'm going to come in here into my cast shadow here, and you'll notice I'm going to paint my cast shadow in before I do the rest of the background. I want this to dry up a little bit before I get into it too much. The reason for that is because just like I did over here, I'm going to paint over it. All right, so that's pretty good for right now. Now, I'm going to go darker over here, so that requires a little bit more pigment. All right, the canvas is still a little wet, so that helps me out in terms of being able to transition from the dark to the light. Do not use white with the underpainting. The underpainting is meant to kind of come through your other colors, and if you start to use white, what's going to happen is you're going to opaque the painting or the color, and that's what you want to avoid. All right. So blend it up, nice and smooth. Well, smoother. Okay. Then I'm going to come into here, and I'm going to start in my shadow, combing along with the contour of the sphere. All right. Now I'm not going to be, like I said, I'm not using any white in the highlight area. Eventually, I'll add in some color, and that's where I'm going to be adding my white. Now I'm not going super dark with this. You'll notice that, right? That I'm not going extremely dark. I'm going fairly light, so lighter than the actual sphere looks, because I'm going to add other colors on top of it. So I don't want to go too dark. It's easier to get darker, it's hard to get lighter. You want to keep that in mind. Come in here, I'm going to darken around the sphere with some more pigment, just to make my sphere stand out a little bit more against the background, just like in my image resource. Come into here, I'm going to blend it in a little bit more. Okay, there we go. That'll work, right? Pretty decent. Not perfect yet. I'm not done yet, right? Now down in here, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to actually add in a little bit more pigment down here. Cool. I'm going to add a little bit more water, a little bit more pigment, and I'm going to come right in here. Good. A little bit more water. See how that cast shadow is dried up a little bit? And when I paint over it, it stays just so that way I know where it is and I have a basic value in there. So as I start to paint over it with my other pigment, it just kind of creates and lets me know where it is. Creates value and lets me know where it is. That's what I was trying to say. I didn't finish that sentence, sorry. And now, another great thing about the underpainting is that it helps us get rid of a lot of white and helps us cover up our canvas super quick. So that way we feel like we've gotten a lot more done in a lot less time. Okay. And that's one of those things. For me, one of the scariest things is in a really large blank canvas. It's very intimidating. This helps me overcome that fear because, like I said, I get a lot done in a very short amount of time, and then it's going to look really full when I'm done. And what I mean by that is the sphere is going to look much more voluminous, much more like mass to it. It's going to look really super deep. Okay, much deeper than this. Okay, so that is basically the starting the underpainting. I'm going to show you in another video how to do the scumbling. Okay.